Red Strings of Regret, Episode 1. They warned Ren about the shrine on the hill. Don't look at it, don't dream of her. The villagers spoke of a red-eyed girl beautiful, cursed, and deadly. They said anyone who saw her would fall in love and die within 7 days. Ren didn't believe in ghost stories, not until the first night he slept in that creaky old house, and the dream came. At exactly 3:33 a.m., he stood before the mist-covered shrine. A girl waited on the steps barefoot, long black hair, pale skin, and glowing red eyes. "You saw me," she whispered in his head. "You're mine now." The next day at school, whispers followed him. "He's marked. She'll take him too." A girl leaned in and said softly, "She doesn't just haunt you, she falls in love." That night, drawn by something he couldn't resist, Ren returned to the Shrine and found her again. But this time, it wasn't a dream. "You're not real," he said. She smiled. "Then why are you shaking?" She touched his cheek, cold as death. "You dreamed of me. Now we're bound." He tried to speak, but she stepped closer. "Love never feels real until it kills you." The next morning, a crow hit the classroom window, blood on the glass. Ren looked down at his notebook. Her name was written across every page. Yuna, 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 and he hadn't written it. Red Strings of Regret, Episode 2. Only Yours. Ren couldn't sleep. Ever since the encounter at the shrine, her voice echoed in his head. Whispered promises, aching warnings, every mirror, every reflection. He saw her, sometimes behind him, sometimes smiling, sometimes crying. Yuna. At school, his classmates avoided his eyes. One by one, they started disappearing 3 in a week. The girl who'd warned him was found unconscious, whispering Yuna's name in her sleep. Ren knew now. The curse wasn't a story. It was her. It was love turned obsession. On the 6th day, Yuna appeared again, not at the shrine, but in his room. She stood at the foot of his bed, hair wet from rain, kimono soaked and torn. Her red eyes glowed softly in the dark. But this time, she didn't look terrifying. She looked lonely. "I didn't want to hurt them," she whispered. "They just got too close to you." Ren's voice trembled. "Why me?" "Because you were the only one who ever looked at me and didn't run." She walked closer, kneeling beside him, her fingers brushing his. "I loved you once, in another life. But I died waiting for you to come back." Tears welled in her glowing eyes. "Now, I want to stay with you forever." Ren's heartbeat thundered in his ears. His mind screamed to run, to fight. But his heart, it broke for her, for the girl who loved too deeply, too long. Then she asked the question, "Will you be mine?" If he said no, she would vanish. The curse would lift. He'd live. But if he said yes, he wouldn't live. But he wouldn't die alone. Ren looked into her eyes filled with sorrow, longing, and a terrifying kind of love. And he whispered, "Yes." She smiled, kissed his forehead gently, and said, "Now you'll never leave me again." The next morning, his room was empty. No trace of him left behind, except a notebook on the desk. One name written over and over, Yuna, 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 and one final sentence beneath it, "Only yours." The end.